Hey, this is John Masadi. I'm the owner of Elite Personal Fitness. I'm here to talk to you guys about the mistakes that I see with my members and then just society itself with nutrition and kind of what's kind of holding people back or mistakes that they just keep making over and over again and kind of don't actually realize that they're making these mistakes. So I've kind of put together 4 things that I think are kind of the most common mistakes or pitfalls or things that you should avoid when you're trying to change your nutrition for the better, just try to be healthier, lose fat, gain muscle, feel better, all the above. Number 1 would probably be eating too low. So what I mean by that is you're eating too little calories. So say you're eating 2,500 calories a day, that's just kind of your average. Maybe you're 30 pounds overweight. You want to make a change for yourself. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go down. I'm going to follow this, 1,100 calorie diet plan, which 90% of the people should not be eating under 1,500 calories. I made a video on this the other day, and I explained who could and who shouldn't. But you're going to go down to say that 1,100 calories. You're going to have success up front because look, you went from 2,500 to 1,100. Okay, and your body's going to say, oh man, like this is way less. You drop some fat, maybe you drop 10 pounds, okay? From there, you're just gonna kind of sit at it. And you're gonna sit at that weight. So you lost your 10 pounds and you're gonna keep going like, I'm barely eating, I'm dying over here. I'm taking in no calories, I'm hungry all the time. My workouts are suffering because I have no energy. And then if you're that low for so long, you could have other health issues come up. Typically it could happen lower than that, but it depends on the person, So not to scare you, but that's just what people do. They go way too low. And my next one would be they'd go too low for too long, or they diet too long. So one, we don't want to go too low because it's going to drop your metabolism, because if you're only taking in so many calories, your metabolism is going to lower, okay? It's not going to plummet, but it will lower. Then from there, we risk losing muscle, which is going to be a huge factor in us losing fat. It's kind of the multiplier or the X factor with fat losses. If you gain muscle, you're going to definitely have a much easier time burning fat. It's going to look a lot better on you. You get that toned, defined look when you have more muscle mass. It's not like you're getting huge, but you get that look that most people are looking for. Then from there, your workouts are going to suffer. So if you are training and you're eating that little, you're going to be able to perform less in the gym, which is going to have less of an effect on the total calories that you're burning. And also too, you're just going to burn yourself out. Then what happens is people then introduce food back in after being very strict, and they do it too fast, or they go right back to normal, and then they have kind of a rebound effect where you're going to go probably gain that 10 pounds plus more, and then you're going to feel worse than you did before you started the diet. So one, we go too low. I wouldn't recommend going lower than 1,500 calories. Men on average, I'm like, hey, stay around 1,800 plus. Women, it's like 1,500, 1,600 plus, but even getting to that is very low for most people. We go too low. The next one would be, like I said earlier, is they go too long. There should be, we call them phases. There should be a fat loss phase. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this for 6 to 12 weeks. Then from there, I'm going to slowly go back up just a little bit, okay, so I can have a normal lifestyle. I can still eat, recover, feel good, just live a normal life. That fat loss phase, which happens is, hey, I need to lose 50 pounds. Maybe they go into their fat loss phase, they lose that 10 pounds, and they go, well, I'm just going to hang out here until I lose the other 50. And what happens is, you do mess with your body when you go that low. You're in a caloric deficit, which then your body responds, and it usually gives you results. But if you're too low and then you do so for too long, you're kind of just going to sit there. So we want to come down, okay, go back up to normal, okay? Come down, go back up to normal. So we're going to keep going up and down, and then over time, you're going to chip away at that 50 pounds. And then once you get to your 50 pounds loss, it's not going to be like you killed yourself to get there. Yeah, time will go by and it'll be hard and you put a lot of effort in. I'm not saying it won't be difficult, but it'll be much easier to maintain that weight. You're not going to have that rebound effect. And if you do go off, course for a couple weeks, you're not gaining that 50 pounds back like you would if you went too low for too long. And then you go, all right, now I'm going to raise my calories up and go from there. Back to our muscle, one of the things that is probably the biggest challenge for most of my clients and probably most of the population is getting in enough protein. So most people aren't eating enough protein, and that's going to be another X factor, you know, in burning fat. If you're looking for fat loss, increasing your protein is going to be a huge game changer for you. One, we're going to build more muscle, which then raises our metabolism. It's easier for you to be more of a fat furnace, I guess you could say. So the stronger you're going to feel, the more confident you're going to be. All the above. One, it's satiating too, so it's not like you can overdo protein. It's hard to get in your protein. Our first goal for people is to get over 100 grams. Then from there, we usually say, let's go to your goal weight. So say your goal weight is 150 pounds, maybe you weigh 170, you're trying to get to 150. That 150, okay, we'd say, hey, we're trying to get to 150 grams of protein a day. If you're trying to gain weight, say you were a guy who weighs 185 and you want to get to 200, well, then our goal, you're going to eat 200 grams of protein to try to get there. Now, our last one would be unfamiliar habits. And what I mean by that is when somebody starts a diet, usually they go way off of what they normally eat, or how they normally eat is kind of how I explain it, our habits of eating. Let's say, for example, you normally skip breakfast. You just aren't hungry, it doesn't feel good, doesn't sit with you right. Maybe you work out in the morning, it just doesn't feel good, so you kind of have a lunch and a dinner, maybe a snack in between. Well, if you go on any of these, you know, mainstream diets, they're going to say, all right, well, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, this is what you need to eat, and it's going to be way different, even if it's not even a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's just going to be way different from what you're used to habit-wise. Maybe on the weekends, you have different eating habits, and then maybe, hey, it works great for you on the weekend, but it doesn't work great for you in the week, or flip-flopped. What we tell people is we say, hey, stick to your habits. We're just trying to fit your goals into how your day or how your week works. That's going to work best. Now, someday, are you going to change your habits to where like, hey, you know what? I've been doing XYZ for 2 years. I really feel like right now is the time to maybe make the next step to where like I should be eating breakfast. Maybe I get up a little bit earlier. By that point, if you've gone 2 years of working on your health, trying to get healthier, maybe you're exercising more, or whatever it may be, you have that added discipline, which will increase your willpower, because it really comes down to your discipline, and your willpower follows that. Then from there, you'll be able to make that change later on and say, hey, you know what? 2 years ago, I couldn't have done this, but now it's like no problem. This happens a lot with people that are trying to eliminate something out of their life. Maybe you're having too much alcohol. And then you go, you know, I need to start drinking less alcohol. And then maybe you're drinking alcohol every single day. Then you go, hey, I need to make this change. Maybe 1-2 years, you kind of have maybe 1 or 2 drinks a week instead of every day. And you do that for so long, and then you get to a point where you go, you know what, this doesn't serve me. Like, I only have it once or twice a week. It's not a big deal if I get rid of it, okay? It's kind of the same thing. We're just talking about like how you eat or when you eat. Typically people eat a certain way while they're at work, and then they eat a certain way when they're at home from work. That's usually how, or that's how we base how we give people nutrition, is we say, hey, if this is how you eat during your week, follow this plan. If you eat like this on the weekend, follow this plan. And that's gonna fit better into people's lives instead of trying to like uproot complete lives. And usually we deal with a lot of people with families. You know, your kids aren't going to want to have chicken and rice at dinner. You know, you're going to have maybe a bigger dinner with your family, and then we can have a bunch of smaller meals throughout the day if that's what you feel good with, if you just have a bigger dinner at night. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's what fits your habit. And also, too, that might be the season of life that you're in. Maybe your kids are older and you guys have practices and all these things, and you're just going to eat together as a family later and at night. That's just what it is. You know, it's not going to be the end of the world that you had food at night. Everyone gets all worried about that. You know, as long as you're not eating like a massive meal and then going to bed like immediately, okay, that's going to bother most people. But even if it doesn't bother you, if it doesn't bother you, then don't worry about it. If it does, hey, then we just got to have more food up front in the day, and then you have a little bit at night. So these are the things that kind of affect people the most with their nutrition that can be easily avoidable if you just go, all right, we just need a little bit more strategy. So say, for example, you know, dieting too long. All right, well, let's set us parameters of 6 to 12 weeks. We'll do that. Okay, then we're going to go off for 6 to 12 weeks. You can stretch it out and figure out what works best for you. Maybe you go 6 weeks. You know, after you do your fat loss for 12 weeks, maybe you go back up a little bit for 6, and then you can go back down for 12. whatever works for you, you just need to have that little bit of a break. We want to make sure that we're getting over 100 grams of protein a day. That's going to be a big game changer, especially if you're trying to lose fat. And if you're trying to gain muscle, get that toned, lean look. We want to make sure that everything's fitting within our habits of, hey, you're not going too far out. There might be one thing where you're like, hey, I don't usually eat lunch, but I know I need to because I usually gorge myself at dinner. Okay, well, cool, then we can add that snack in, but it's kind of like one thing, and it makes it easy for you to change and create that discipline so that later down the road, maybe you can make the next level change and then go from there. And then going too low. You know, your body needs fuel, okay? With our metabolism and how it works, you burn fuel a bunch of different ways. You, one, need calories to have, you know, fuel just to survive and live your bodily functions. We need calories to maintain our muscle mass. We need calories just to walk around, and then we need, you know, calories or things that we burn when we exercise. So taking all that into account, 1,100 calories isn't going to be enough for you unless you weigh like 95 pounds, okay? That's the only way that's, you know, probably going to be enough for you. So if you follow all these things, if you try to stay away from these kind of pitfalls, mistakes, or kind of traps that people put themselves into just because they just don't know, you're going to be much better off. I hope this helps. If there's anything that you need help with, please feel free to reach out.